This is exactly how to market your SaaS product. You get millions of users, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, monthly recurring revenue. We'll go over my experience building my own SaaS product, CareerWiz, and growing it to over 10,000 users. And we'll also look at a multitude of case studies of companies that have gone from zero to over $3 million, $5 million in monthly recurring revenue. Products that you may have heard of from founders like Nikita Beer to other less known products that you have definitely seen online, but whose growth strategies you've probably never heard of. We'll go over a multitude of approaches, but we'll split it into two different categories. One of them is completely organic, so basically marketing without any expenses at all. And then the second possibility is paid marketing, where you have a little bit of funding that you're able to dedicate toward marketing. And both avenues are both very effective depending on what strategies you actually decide to implement. First, let's talk about organic growth strategies. Again, these are strategies that don't require any funding, just your time, dedication, and a lot of organization. Let's start with my experience. For CareerWiz, I grew the whole project organically. I did not spend any money on marketing. Any money that I actually tried to spend on marketing was wasted, so it did not actually lead to anything. So all of my users came from organic marketing. What I did is I created 5 or 6 different TikTok accounts. And I decided that some of them would be for experimenting and the other ones were to be just for reposting formats that were proven to work. So every single day I would make 5 to 10 different TikToks. I would test them out in different accounts and I would try to post every day at least once on each of these TikTok accounts. I tried everything from memes to educational threads to really simple 10 to 20 second explainer videos. I did this experimenting on the experimental account, and then on polished accounts I would basically only repost the type of content that would do really well on the experimental accounts. I'll show it on the screen, but you're able to see how different the results are from the experimental compared to the polished accounts. The polished accounts grew to over 1,000 followers, which is a lot for a brand account, especially because it's a very simple SaaS product without any personality behind it. Whereas the experimental accounts usually stayed at around 50 followers, 60 followers, or something like that. This is why it's very important to have this structure. You don't want to be spamming a ton of different posts on just 3 accounts that are all experimental. Because then, first of all, your account will be seen as very spammy and TikTok will not recommend it, and you're a lot more likely to get shadow banned or basically spamming the same content over and over. Now, I would obviously post these not just on TikTok, but also on Instagram and YouTube Shorts, but TikTok was definitely the most effective for getting traffic. And I would say that at least 80% of my users came from these TikTok videos. What you should always do is look at viral formats that work for other products. So what I did is I looked at other popular SaaS products and how they were marketing their own products, right? So I looked at Coursology, I looked at AI Apply, I looked at StudyFetch, I looked at Quizzard, and basically took all of these popular formats. I looked at their most viral videos and basically stole them and replicated them for my product. And there are different approaches you could take in terms of the content itself. Some people have actually found a lot of success by making content that is not strictly related to the product, that the page represents the product, and because a good amount of posts on the page still talk about the product, they're still able to get a good amount of traffic. Me, because I didn't have a lot of time and I wanted to make sure that every effort I put in would lead to actual users and hopefully then actual paying users, every single post I made was about the product. But you should never position yourself in a way where you're trying to sell to them. You should always position yourself as if you're a user trying to share something magical or something really cool that you found on the internet with them. So basically think of it as if you're putting them on to this really cool thing that they don't know about. And that's how I got my most viral videos. These are some of the most viral formats or hooks that work. So it's basically just, oh my God, my roommate is using this product to spam out job applications really fast. I wish I was using this, right? So that's the type of format that worked the best. The next really effective approach for organic marketing is leveraging forums and community. I did this for CareerWiz, and it is a very much long-term strategy because it is really hard to blow up at once on Reddit or any online forums. But what you want to do is, again, never try to directly sell to people that would read your content on Reddit, for example, especially on Reddit because people hate self-promotion on there. So you should position yourself as a user. Pretend you're a user who's trying to get feedback or get like someone's opinion on this product who has used it before. People that obviously have never heard of it will actually Google it and that will get traffic to your website. And what I did, I basically went on a bunch of Reddit forums, Reddit communities from like cover letters, resume reviews, tech resumes, marketing resumes, and all that. And I basically just created original content that's in some way mentioned my product. And that was actually able to get me a lot of traffic. Not all at once, and some of this actually paid off in the long term. But these posts at first maybe got like 200 views, 300 views, but then over time, after 3 or 4 months, as people still Google things, right? Over time, they Google how to write a good cover letter, how to do this and that, right? And then they eventually organically will find your post if you actually wrote something that can rank high in terms of SEO, and that is also appreciated by other users, so gets a lot of upvotes. And there are actually companies that have literally gone viral on Reddit, and that has been their whole business model. So there's definitely something to consider. I did this for about a week and then just let it marinate because I wasn't seeing results right away, and it wasn't something that I felt like investing time into. But it is definitely something to consider, and that's something you should always do, because the first week that you launch, you can just go on Reddit, write 5 or 6 different posts, and it really can't hurt. And again, you should always position yourself as a participant in your product and not the person that you're trying to sell to. And a lot of times you might be tempted to be like, hey, I'm a founder, I built this thing, and you think people will, respect the hustle. That sometimes works, but I would definitely advise against it because it has not worked for me. Another way to go about this is to create your own community. If you're able to get a lot of traffic from social media, from content that maybe isn't strictly app related, you can leverage that to drive people to some sort of group, whether it's a Discord channel, a subreddit, or a group chat. So you can then leverage that community to actually advertise your product more directly. If people will join that community, it means they're also more open to having a connection with you, the founder, the creator of that community. So it will definitely be easier to sell to them. And that's also an approach we're taking for the Pillar app, and more particularly Blue Rod Legacy, the holding company of the Pillar app, which is our first product. If you're offering really great value with your product, something you could do is partner with influencers without having to actually pay them. So really, and I'm talking about micro influencers, so people with 5K to 10K following, where you get them to make videos about the product, and in exchange they can get your product for free. And another model when it comes to actually working with influencers, what you can do, since you don't have any money to offer them up front, you can make a deal, an equity deal. So you offer them 10% of your company's revenue if they are willing to advertise this. And a lot of times these micro influencers will be open to this because they don't actually get a lot of partnership requests, or at least a lot less than you may think. And they see this as a long-term thing, and especially because of the rise of, celebrity brands like Prime and Mr. Beast chocolate bars, or Emma Chamberlain's coffee brand, it is definitely something that is a lot more popular, and they're a lot more open to doing than they were in the past. So if you find an influencer that you think has a lot of potential, try to partner with them and offer them equity. And a lot of times, if you are able to sell yourself properly and the product has a genuine value, you might actually get a great deal out of it, and a lot of guaranteed eyeballs to your product. Here are examples of organic growth strategies that several companies have used to get to millions of dollars in revenue. The first example is AI Apply. AI Apply actually has an Instagram account that is exclusively dedicated to memes. All it posts is memes about job seeking and the job hunt process. And you might think, how does that even convert? I'm just posting funny content and the username just happens to be AI Apply. But what you have to think about is how many eyeballs they actually get to the account. And every time someone follows the account, they see in the description that they have a catchy tagline telling them, this AI tool will write job applications for you. They actually get a large amount of their traffic from their Instagram meme page account. Additionally, the founder of AI Apply regularly posts on TikTok and Instagram demos of their products, and a lot of times they go viral because they structure them in a way that makes it both funny and almost shocking, something that you feel like you have to share it. And something really interesting is that they've been using this new feature that hasn't been published yet as a funnel to drive people to their website that doesn't actually have that feature implemented yet. And that feature is basically an AI interview assistant, or more so just an AI that takes job interviews for you. And you can see how that is an inherently viral feature to have. Like, imagine someone that looks like you talking instead of you in a job interview, and they're basically leveraging that to get so many eyeballs to their website that a certain percent of them convert regardless, even though they aren't going to use the exact product that got them to the website in the first place, since it's not out yet. Here is another great example. The gas app buying a kitty beer is basically a friends app for high school students. And the strategies that he used was he created a lot of different Instagram accounts, the name tailored to each high school. So if your high school is called, for example, Edison High School, then he will make an account called gasapp.edison high school. And he would make these accounts private, and he would mass follow everyone that went to the school. So everyone would see this account following them. And when they tried to follow them back, they didn't actually get accepted. So everybody was wondering, what the hell is this account? It was following everyone. So they had, thousands of pending requests from tons of high school students who were wondering what this app actually was. And then the moment that they decided to launch, they basically approved everybody at once and made a single photo post on those accounts, which actually showed the app. So all at once, they were able to get so many eyeballs to the product and so many downloads in such a short amount of time that actually allowed them to get to the top of the App Store. Because getting to the top of the App Store is also about how fast you can get downloads, not just how many downloads you can actually get. And then from there, it was a done deal because of all the press that any app or product gets when they climb to the top of the App Store rankings. So if your target audience is, for example, in colleges, that is a strategy you might want to implement. But you obviously have to phrase it in a way there where people would actually be captivated by this product, right? The Gas app is their tagline, "See who likes you," is perfect for high schoolers, right? So if you're selling to college students, you obviously have to go with something a little different that would still catch their attention in the same way. And this also has to be executed at a large scale. Another example product is Nexus Research, which is a simple AI tool that lets you research. The founder, which is your average tech bro, you should also follow on YouTube. They basically made a lot of content that wasn't strictly related to the app. A lot of their content was content that was engineered to go viral to just get eyeballs to the account, and to the other content that was instead actually strictly related to the app. The series that went viral for them is one mocking college students at different schools, or like the general stereotypes of college students that go to certain schools. And those didn't necessarily lead to direct downloads to the app, but they actually led to more eyeballs to the other videos explaining the product, and those led to actual paid users on their product. These are just a few examples, but you can see other products like Coursology, StudyFetch, Turbo Learn AI. All of these really went viral by just making videos showing their features that, especially at the time where they started, were a lot more likely to go viral because AI was not as developed. So what the products were doing was a lot more impressive than it necessarily is now. So now let's dive into paid marketing strategies. And keep in mind, this doesn't mean you need to have a huge budget to make these work, right? So you can make this work with $100, you can make this work with $1,000. The first and most popular, and actually really most effective approach for paid marketing is to pay influencers. That can mean either people influencers or people that are running pages that are already really popular. This is an approach we're taking for the Pillar app, for example, paying different theme pages in the motivational, self-improvement, self-help space to promote our product. And a lot of times it's important to keep in mind, you will probably get better rates from like faceless accounts because there's less downside for them to do promotions. Since they don't have a personal brand, it'll hurt their image a lot less than if an actual person decides to promote your product and they're taking a lot more risk. And this is an approach that can either, be really effective or not effective at all. So you have to make sure you find people with a cold following. There's plenty of people with a lot of followers that don't actually have a connection to their audience. So if they were to push anything, it wouldn't really have any effect, and people following them wouldn't really be incentivized to follow them. So a lot of times the best approach is to go after people that you already know or you follow yourself, because you can actually tell like if people are actually able to create a relationship with them, and if they're actually an influencer that actually has influence. And if you're going after faceless accounts, a lot of times usually had more bargaining power because you can really usually drive prices down. So those accounts are usually ran by people who are in third world countries, so they might not need as much money for each post. But also for those accounts as well, it's important to look at their engagement rates. If you're selling to people in the United States, you want to make sure that the majority of their audience is in the United States. And for those accounts, however, the best approach is really a quantity approach. You want to reach out to a lot of those, because from a faceless account with maybe 100K followers that gets 50,000 views, you might not actually get great conversion. But if you do it with like 10 different accounts and people that are actually in that space see your app more than once or twice, then they'll actually be more incentivized to check it out and actually convert to paying users. And this will really just test your negotiation skills. And obviously, to come up with the best price, you really just have to think of do the math correctly with how much return you will get from a promo on a certain account. The other approach you can take is to hire creators to make content for you. And these creators can be UGC creators, people that don't actually have a following, which means you don't have to pay them as much. And usually the best way to go about this is to pay them by the amount of content that they produce over a certain amount of time. So for example, say I will pay you $1,000 if you make 80 videos on this account over the span of a month. And UGC content actually does work because there's a face behind it, and since that face behind the content, it's easier for those accounts to grow. You also have to make sure those whether you hire are either likable people or also good looking. That also helps a lot. And in terms of UGC content, again, it is a marketing approach. It is really hard to really find success with a single UGC creators. You want to get 4 or 5, and you could even get 4 or 5 speaking in different languages so you can get access to a larger audience. It is really about those multiple points of contact. So if users see your product, they might just disregard it as an ad. But if they see it 3 or 4 times, they're like, okay, I think everyone is using it. Maybe I should start using it too. We have to make sure the content that these creators produce is very authentic. And always, again, from the point of view of customers of your product. So those people have to act as if they are loyal customers that just love your product and they just want to put everybody onto this great thing. A great example at this is Coursology. They do their marketing really well, especially on Instagram and TikTok. And they have these faces behind their accounts. It's usually 2 or 3 people, so users are really familiar with them. And they just create content that is usually just really funny and also includes, shout out
out to their product. But that also does not seem intentional or too salesy. Another way to do this that is actually might not necessarily be fully paid is to have ambassador programs. A lot of college students are just looking for stuff to put on their resumes, so they'd definitely be willing to put brand ambassador for this company, their resume, and just work for free for like $5 a week or for a month. So if you're able to actually to sell yourself to these students and sell the vision of your product, maybe sell them on the possibility of a full-time internship, a full-time paid internship later on, it is definitely something worth considering. Or you do have to keep in mind that from my experience building other products, for example, I was building a glance dating app, and we had a lot of brand ambassadors helping us spread the word. And it's really hard to get people that are actually dedicated, especially if they are unpaid. So that's something to keep in mind, but definitely a strategy worth checking out if you know how to properly sell yourself and your product. I'm sure you guys are wondering about paid ads, Facebook ads, Google ads, whether it's actually worth it. From my experience, an exclusively paid ad strategy is never really effective. So the best approach is a hybrid strategy. So it's actually the way study fetching consultants do it. One thing to note is that it is believed that a lot of times TikTok and Instagram, once you actually start paying for ads on one account, they will start hurting your organic content because they know that you're willing to pay. Basically, you won't push your organic content as much, so you actually pay to get more exposure. So most companies actually create a second account for paid ads. And the best approach in terms of paid ads, what I've seen that has worked most efficiently for those companies, is to basically take the most successful pieces of organic content and basically just put some funding behind it to push them because they know that they convert. So all they need is just more eyeballs onto it. Another approach you can take that can be effective is to target a very specific audience, and that's obviously to like the ad settings, but also to the content that you make. If you feel like an ad is perfectly tailored for them, that will a lot more easily lead to conversions, which means paying users. And the most important thing for this is definitely consistency. So your product will not blow up in 2 days or 3 days. So it's important to just consistently create content, consistently apply your strategy. Even the paid strategy is not something where you just throw money at the problem and you just get users, right? So it's something that takes time and effort, and that's important to know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will make a lot more about SaaS and just everything I learned. I'll see you in the next one.